And once again, to please put your cell phones on vibration or silent mode. Meanwhile, from 11:45 a.m. in the seminar hall, there is going to be a career inspirational session on the theme of career navigation in metals and materials sector. And this session will be held in the seminar hall, and we'll be having Shri Amarendu Prakash, Chairman SAIL, Dr. Ramanuj Narayan, Director CSIR IMMT, and Ms. Kopal Agarwal, Joint President Strategic Procurement, Hindalco Industries Limited, as our panelists for the session. So if you may, all the students particularly, they can join us in the seminar hall for this career inspirational session. And now, once again, I would request to please settle down as we will very much stick to the time. We have so many wonderful lectures coming up and a CEO panel discussion as well. And the NMA also, the National Metallurgist Awards. For that, I would request everybody, sabhi se anurodh hai, samaston ko request karibi, asan grahan karniyantu. We'll be beginning with our first plenary lecture of the 77th Annual Technical Meeting of the Indian Institute of Metals. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I would once again request, we are really running behind the schedule and we would like to start the plenary lecture as quickly as possible. For the same, may you please take your seats now. सभी से अनुरोध है, हम समय को फॉलो करते हुए हमारा पहला प्लेनरी लेक्चर अब शुरू करने जा रहे हैं. कृपया अपने आसन ग्रहण कर लें. Well, ladies and gentlemen, our first plenary lecture of the 77th Annual Technical Meeting of the Indian Institute of Metals is on the topic of cathode materials for lithium-ion batteries. Our speaker for the session is Dr. Akshay Kumar Padhi. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Padhi invented LFP, a cathode material for lithium-ion batteries, during his doctoral studies at the University of Texas at Austin under the guidance of 2019 Nobel Prize winner for chemistry, Dr. John Goodenough. He has published extensively in international journals and proceedings and cited more than 15,000 times. His seminar paper, Phosphoolivines as Positive Electrode Materials for the Rechargeable Lithium Batteries, published in the year of 1997, is one of the most cited papers in the field of energy storage and batteries. He was awarded the Norman Hackman Young Author Award by the Electrochemical Society in 1999. He has 10 patents and 45 publications in US and international patent literature. For the last 10 years, he has been working as an engineer at Apple. Well, with that, I would request everybody to give a huge round of applause and welcome our speaker, Dr. Akshay Kumar Padhi. And as we are beginning with the plenary lecture, if you have your colleagues or something, because it's going to be a very, very informative lecture. I'm sure everybody would like to know what Dr. Akshay Kumar Pari has to say on the topic.
So, sustainable transformation of metals in industries. Topic, I'm right at home, literally and metaphorically. I went to school here in Saini School, and then I did my bachelor's in Sarang, IJT Sarang, and after my master's I went to Texas. Thank you very much for the opportunity. It is hard to imagine a world without batteries. From the toys for kids to rovers on Mars, we use batteries everywhere. Although, without adequate advancement in batteries and chemistries within them, we would be carrying around, we would not be carrying around computers in our bags, and the phones should be drastically different in our pockets. Also, to achieve sustainable planet, it is critical not only to develop various emission-free renewable energy sources such as solar, tidal, and wind, but also to develop energy storage technologies to efficiently manage and use these technologies. Okay. So lithium-ion batteries have aided the transformation of the portable electronics revolution, for last 3 decades, and are now enabling electric vehicles and other forms of transportation. In this presentation, I plan to briefly discuss the history of development of lithium-ion batteries, especially focusing on the development of high-energy cathode materials. I'll present a very impactful cathode material that I invented during my doctoral studies. Let's start our discussion with various energy storage methods. Electrical energy storage is essential in managing and optimizing the use of energy in various applications. These methods allow the storage of energy during times of excess production and low demand, and release this energy at the time of higher demand. These are some of the examples of energy storage methods: pumped hydroelectric, compressed air, flywheels are mechanical based, thermal energy and molten salt energy storage are thermal, electrical to thermal energy storage. We have got superconducting magnetic energy, we can store like that. And the electrical to chemical energy storage would be by hydrogen storage and rechargeable batteries. Of all these techniques, you can see that the rechargeable batteries provide the portability of electrical energy stored as chemical energy with ability to deliver at a high conversion efficiency. Let's go over some of the common rechargeable battery chemistries. So we have got lead acid batteries that are used in the automobiles, non-EVs, NiCad batteries that are not very common anymore, nickel metal hydride batteries for the EVs that came with the Toyota Prius and stuff like that, and we have got lithium-ion batteries. The amount of stored energy is expressed either per unit weight as gravimetric energy density or per unit volume, volumetric energy density. As you can see, the lithium ions can store a lot of energy in a small volume and are lighter. That's why they have found applications in portable electronics, electric automobiles, and other energy storage systems. This is driven by, basically this is driven by the stability of electrolytes and high energy materials that I'll be discussing a little bit. while preparing for this talk, I was doing some research, and here we see the couple of reports from Bloomberg, New Energy Finance, and International Energy Agency. The growth of annual demand for the lithium batteries is almost exponential. Demand for the lithium batteries are mostly driven by the transportation sector, and this growth is agnostic to the geographical regions. So lithium batteries have become an integral part of our life, pioneering this powering cell phones and laptops that have revolutionized the modern society. They are transforming the transportation sector, electric cars and buses and bikes. They're enabling widespread replacement of fossil fuel power generation with renewable energy sources like solar and wind, providing a cleaner and more sustainable planet. Recognizing this, the Nobel Committee awarded 2019 Nobel Prize to John Goodenough, Stanley Whittingham, and Dr. Yoshino for development of lithium-ion batteries. In their statement, they said, and awarding this prize, they said that lithium-ion batteries have revolutionized our lives since they first entered the market in 1991. They have laid foundation to a wireless, fossil-free society, fossil fuel-free society, and are the greatest benefit to the humankind. Let's quickly look at some schematics of the batteries. Battery literally means a collection of related things that are intended to work together. In the energy storage context, battery is a combination of individual electrochemical cells connected in series or parallel to provide appropriate voltage, energy, and energy delivery capacity. This is the schematic representation of an electrochemical cell. The two electrodes, anode and cathode, are two hosts for the guest lithium ion separated by an electrolyte. In the lithium-ion batteries, the lithium ion shuttles between the host and the guest. Electrolyte is a lithium-ion conductor, but an electronic insulator. While the lithium ions shuttle between the electrodes within the electrolyte, electrons travel in the outer circuit, providing the energy. So, and the electrons and the lithium ions meet inside the electrodes to maintain the charge neutrality. The electrodes are oxidized or reduced in the process. On the right side, or left side, another representation of an electrochemical cell. The cell consists of an anode, a cathode, and it is separated by electrolyte. Since it is a insulator, it has an energy gap. And energy gap and the energy gap. So, and the energy gap is created by the valence band and conduction band, which is for liquids. Because they are not very defined, they are highest occupied molecular orbitals or lowest unoccupied molecular orbitals. So for the electrochemical cell to function, the redox potentials of the anode and the cathode have to be located inside the energy gap of the electrolyte. And the voltage of the cell is actually the difference between the Fermi levels. During the discharge, when the electrodes are connected, the electrons flow from the anode to the cathode, and they are under the cathode, producing an electrical current that can be used for lighting a bulb or any other applications. The ions, such as protons or hydroxyl ions or lithium ions in case of lithium rechargeable batteries, they travel within the electrolyte, meet at the electrodes, and meet at the cathode and maintain the charge neutrality. An analogous example would be, we have two buckets of water, and when we connect them with a pipe, two buckets of water at different levels and connect them with a pipe, with a tap. And as soon as you open the tap, the water would flow from the top to the bottom, and we can use a turbine or a flywheel to gather that energy or get some work out of it. For a rechargeability during charging, the electrons are placed back in the anode. During charging, we bring back the electrons, and so bring back the electrons. So the the aqueous electrolytes actually have an energy gap of 1.23 volts, but the non-aqueous electrolytes for lithium-ion batteries can be designed to more than 4.5 volts. That's why we have this advantage of lithium-ion batteries over the aqueous batteries like lead acid or nickel cadmium. So in 1973, the OPEC, Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, imposed an embargo against the United States, and the price of the gasoline jumped from $8 a barrel to $32 a barrel. This first energy crisis alerted everyone that the need for energy conservation and alternative energy technologies. At ExxonMobil, Dr. Whittingham was working as a scientist, and he showed that you could actually electrochemically insert lithium into the layers of titanium disulfide. And he created this concept of the lithium-ion batteries that was very important. Where the titanium, when we insert the lithium into the titanium disulfide with titanium 4+, that will be reduced to titanium 3+ at 2.2 volts. Although it was interesting, 2.2 volts was not very much higher than the alkaline batteries, and use of lithium metal, we did not have a appropriate anode to make a proper lithium-ion battery. In 1980, Professor Goodenough's group, Mizushima, they actually identified that if we exchange the sulfate for the oxygen, instead of sulfides, if we make oxides, we could actually get a lot of these energy bands, and we can find a lot of materials that might be useful. So professors, they could find another structure which is very similar to, which is same as the TiS2, and they could find that they could increase the voltage of the cell to 4 volts by just using cobalt oxide. So the cobalt would be, by extracting the cobalt 3+ in the oxide gets oxidized to cobalt 4+. This particular development actually spurred a lot of other materials that could be used, like lithium nickel oxide or lithium manganese oxide, or the current day NMCs that we use. So to summarize, this is the Nobel Prize thing. To summarize, Stanley Whittingham, the concept of he demonstrated the concept of a viable rechargeable lithium battery, reversible electrochemical insertion of the lithium ions into the layers of TiS2 at 2.2 volts. With low voltage and lithium metal as anode, the battery was not too unsafe to be viable. John Goodenough's group found the use of oxide for sulfide would enable the access of more transistor metal redox potentials, and identified LiCO2. After that, other layered cathode materials as LiNiO2 and other materials like NMC would be identified. In 1985, Dr. Yoshino found the graphite that can be used as the anode that can intercalate lithium ions. So with lithium cobalt oxide as the cathode and the graphite, the battery was commercialized in 1991. So that is the chemistry we use in our phones today, mostly. So to summarize all these cathode materials, there is this lithium cobalt oxide structure with a layered structure, and we can make all these materials like LCO, nickel, cobalt, aluminum oxides, and nickel, manganese, cobalt oxides in the layered structure. They also identified in 1983 another material, spinel, which is a framework, which is an oxide that has a three-dimensional channels for lithium ions. The manganese ions are located in the octahedrons, and the tetrahedrons are containing lithium ions. So this material is very good, but still it had some performance problems that I will discuss. So in 1993, I identified this particular structure, olivine structure, LiMPO4, which is actually olivine is a magnesium silicate, but we can make it with lithium and manganese in the magnesium side and phosphate for the silicate groups. So we identified this and we called it phospholivines. So to summarize at that point, always there is we have got lithium cobalt oxide, lithium nickel oxide, lithium manganese oxides, all are like 4-well batteries. But cobalt and nickel are expensive, while manganese-based materials lack the performance. So there is always a need for iron-based materials because of lower toxicity, lower cost, and safer. But however, LiFeO2, which is analogous to LiCO2, is very metastable and very difficult to make. So once we understand, once we understand the basics, we find that the electrons are coming out of the metal-oxygen metal bonds that are because in the oxides we have got this S sharing and corner sharing of the octahedrons. So we thought we can modify that. We can change that. How much force we have to apply for the electrons to come out of that bond by using some phosphates or sulfates within the structure. So thus we found some framework structures that would allow the reversible extraction and insertion of lithium ions into the structure. We found, so my topic for the PhD was basically mapping all these redox potentials of various transition metal elements in different structures, and to understand how these different polyanions like phosphates and sulfates and the structures are affecting this voltage. So we made several, we can see that we can make several materials in the same structure, and I can identify, I can find out where the manganese and manganese, iron, nickel, cobalt, all these redox potentials are in different structures. So as you can see, what we found that we can actually, what do we see that we have different levels for different redox potentials depending on the transition metals. They have their absolute positions vary as we change the structure and the chemistry, but the relative positions remain same. Relative position remains same. Thus, I published this paper in '97 and was awarded actually Norman Heckerman Award in 1998. This paper was cited over 10,000 times, and it was a seminal paper in the battery. What we showed that a lithium iron phosphate can be charged and discharged at 3.5 volts. We could extract the lithium out of the lithium iron phosphate, resulting in iron phosphate, and that slight volume change while we extract this thing resulted in with a multi-phase discharge reaction. Actually, the multi-phase discharge reaction is not bad because it is actually first was commercialized in power tools. So lithium iron phosphate is actually iron-based, safer than other chemistries, less costly, environmentally benign, high power for power tools. As you can see, this chart from the IEA shows that the share of the lithium iron batteries in the EV market is increasing. In 2022, it is 30%, 30%, and it is set to take off according to the Forbes article in August this year. So these are the models that are coming in 2024. A lot of Chinese models: Tesla Model 3, Ford, Hyundai, Kia, BMW, and many more. To summarize, for a sustainable planet, we not only need renewable energy sources, but also reliable and powerful energy storage technologies. Lithium-ion batteries has been critical in achieving that. Development of high-energy cathode materials has been critical. In lithium iron phosphate, LiFePO4, I identified a lower-cost, environmentally benign, safer yet powerful alternative to nickel, cobalt, and manganese-based oxide. I owe a lot of gratitude to my professor, Professor Goodenough. This is just after he got his Nobel Prize. And that is a picture, I think he got another prize, Olin Palladium Award by Electrochemical Society, where I am looking like that. So, and my senior, Dr. Okada, he's a professor in Japan. So, that's about it. Thank you very much for listening. If you have any questions, I'll take it. Yeah, sure. Yes. Yeah, it is much lower, but there is a huge shift in the market. For LFP, it's just a huge shift. Like, all these car companies are building their own. Yeah, it's actually present. Yeah, that is 2022 data. It's already 20% in the market, 20%, 30% material share in the cars. So 2023 is different, and 2024 would be different. And there will be a time, I think, it will be like most of the cars would use that. And also the buses and the energy storage systems, like stationary energy storage, those are completely, they use completely LFP.
And cobalt is a huge problem.
Cobalt is a huge problem, and cobalt is costly, right?
Yeah. And mining is also,
Yeah.
sustainability is an issue.
Exactly.
Child mining and all those stuff. And the other thing, more importantly, on the substrate thing, do you think any difference when you are using, typically substrate, I am coming from aluminum perspective, so you use aluminum foil as a substrate.
Yeah.
So does that make any impact, the quality of foil on the chemistry?
No.
Is there any correlation between chemistry and foil?
I don't think so. I mean, it's just a current collector. It's just a current collector, any foil. I mean, yeah, we need to control the quality. We need to have the same thing every time we use, because we don't want any quality diversions. But because I work with, I work with a lot of vendors in China. But I think quality is not a factor. We use very thin foils, like 10 micron.
12 micron.
10 micron foils.
So basically for you only two reasons are adhesions and strength.
Yeah.
These are the only two things.
Yeah. Purity
Thank
is
you.
important. It should not break, and it should not be stuff like that. But it should be okay.
Thank you very much, sir. I'm so sorry to interrupt. We have a very strict schedule, and I would thank Dr. Padhi for concluding the lecture in the given time limit. Thank you very much, sir, for that very enriching, informative, and I'm sure everybody has a lot of questions, but I'm sure we'll have a good networking lunch. I would request sir to please stay back, and I would invite Dr. U. Kamachi Mudali to kindly come on stage and felicitate Dr. Akshay Kumar Padhi. Let us all together give a huge round of applause for that fantastic plenary lecture by Dr. Akshay Kumar Padhi. Thank you very much, and thank you very much, Dr. Mudali. And now our next plenary lecture is by Dr. Raghin Elizabeth Oon. Dr. Oon is an expert in the field of metallurgical and materials technology. Having obtained her MSc degree in metallurgical and materials technology, her quest for knowledge led her to pursue a PhD degree in theoretical metallurgy. followed by a docent degree in theoretical process metallurgy with a specialization in functional materials, all from the Royal Institute of Technology in Stockholm, Sweden in 1993, 1998, and 2005, respectively. Since 2009, she has held the position of Professor of Process Metallurgy at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology in Norway, where she imparts her knowledge to the next generation of researchers and engineers in the pursuit of scientific excellence and the creation of a sustainable, innovative future. Dr. Roon has contributed significantly community, and her work spans with the diverse areas including advanced material processing, refining and recycling, filtration, oxidation, new material designs, material characterization, so on and so forth. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome Dr. Roon on the stage for her plenary lecture on the topic of recycling lithium-ion batteries, a crucial step towards sustainability.
Check.
Okay. Do I have a pointer? I can switch the slides. Okay.
A very good afternoon, ma'am, and welcome. Can we have a round of applause and welcome Dr. Roon?
Thank you so much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to start out by saying that I'm very happy to be here today, and I want to thank the organizer for giving me this opportunity, not only to come here to give this talk, but actually to see your beautiful country. So, oh, no slides. Let's see, just give them a minute and see if we can get the slides back on. So I'm actually going to cover a quite broad area here today. I'm going to talk about recycling. So my professorship at NTNU is within refining and recycling. So when I came to NTNU, coming from Sweden, I started focusing on recycling of aluminium. But as years have passed, recycling has become a very important topic in many, many different areas. And what I'm going to talk about today is recycling of lithium-ion batteries. A lot of focus is on that today in Europe and also in the Nordic countries. So we're not only developing new companies, but we're also developing new study programs. Study programs that are going to support the industry in a good way, because as it is today, we do not have specific programs where we only focus on production of batteries and also recycling of batteries. Well, the slides are back on, so let's see if we can get started with the talk. Okay, so now this one doesn't work, so I can't flip the slides. Oh, perfect, thank you. Okay, so I have sort of organized my talk in different parts. I know that there will be many of you with different backgrounds, so I'm trying just to touch on the topic. So I'll start with a short introduction, and of course I will be focusing a lot on the European and the Nordic views of what is happening in this area today. Then I'll continue to talk about the importance of circular economy. Circular economy is something that we want to use to reach sustainability in our society in views of actually recycling materials. And I'm not saying metals, I'm saying materials, because what is important now is that we have been focusing a lot on recycling different kind of metals. But as it is now, Europe is saying that even other materials are important. We can not only use them as fuel, we need also to recycle polymers and other organic materials. Then I'll go on and I'll talk a bit about the importance of waste preparation and pre-treatment processes to understand how we can optimize the processes that we have for recycling today. Then I want to talk a bit about being a process metallurgist. I want to focus on the processes that we have today for pyrometallurgical approaches, but also touch on the hydrometallurgical processes. Because what's happening today is actually most of the processes are a combination of processes. You start with a pyrometallurgical step, and you continue with a hydrometallurgical step. Then I'll try to wrap up by looking at some of the industrial processes that are available today and try to make some conclusions based on where we are today. And what I want you to remember is what I've actually written at the bottom of the slide here to the left. There is a very strong fragmentation in the present recycling processes. And I think one of the things I want you to take away from my talk is that we need to start rethinking how we're going to develop new technologies for recycling of valuable metals. And we need to do it together. That's important. Okay, yes. So for Europe, the automotive industry is a very important industry. It increases, of course, the quality of life of the society. And as you also know, it secures a lot of jobs. It also secures a good sort of environmental sustainability. And we talk very often about how the automotive industry also support other supply chains and also open up for innovations in not only their own sector, but also in other sectors. And what is actually happening right now is that we're going through a shift. We're going from a more traditional cars that are fueled by gas into electrical and hybrid electrical cars. So if you look at the statistics, what people are assuming that by 2040, which is not that far away in time, 35% of the newly sold vehicles in Europe is going to be electric. As it is now, more than 70% of all cars actually bought in Norway or sold in Norway right now are electrical vehicles. So, of course, some countries are sort of in the driver's seat here now, and Norway are one of those countries. There is a lot of research initiatives based on this. So if we look at the Nordic areas, but also look at the European areas, there's a lot of research going on. What is very good with this is that some of the European initiatives allow also partners outside of Europe. So if we look at some of the initiatives that are being driven now by the European Commission, we can have partners in India or in other parts of the world, which means that collaboration is becoming more and more open, and we can also distribute European money outside of Europe, which I think is a plus. I put down some of the areas where we are now focusing. Of course, increased society quality of life is an important part. Everything connected to circular economy and batteries for electrical vehicles. We need to guarantee a flow of metals back into the eco-cycle. So through circular economy, what do we actually want to do? We want to close the eco-cycle of the materials present in batteries today. We also want to redesign batteries. As it is today, it's actually quite difficult to recycle. If you look at a mobile phone today, 83 of the first elements of 83 of the first elements that are present in the periodic table, 62 of them are present in the battery of a mobile phone. Some of them in very, very small amounts. This makes it extremely difficult to recycle. And what happens is that we go to downgrading the material instead of recycling back into the same kind of quality that we started out with. So redesigning the battery is also an important part. Then trying to develop advanced technology for how we can reuse batteries. A lot of the batteries that are being used in electric vehicles today, they have a lot of power left when they can no longer be used in a car. So what we are focusing on in Norway is trying to use electric vehicle batteries for powering solar cells. Then create new value chains and business models, everything around circular economy. And then also try to create a suitable regulatory framework for recycling. This is becoming more and more demanding for the companies that are working in this area. So let's look at the battery. We just had a very good talk just now, going into details about batteries. But if we look at a battery today, it harnesses a lot of different properties because it consists of so many different metals. If we look at a 60 kilowatt hour battery, which has a 60 kilowatt capacity, it contains about 185 kilos of metals. That's a lot. And if we look at the batteries that has been on the market that are presently starting to come back for recycling, we can see that nickel-based cathodes have actually been powering 80% battery capacity that we've had on the roads during these last couple of years in new plug-in electric vehicles. Aluminium and copper foils were typically also used and are also what we're focusing on in view of recycling. Cobalt is the most expensive battery material, and of course it increases the battery life. And we are trying to find now new metals that can be used instead of cobalt. As you know, there's a lot of politics connected to that metal. Here, just to about the different metals that are present. So as you can see, the green dots are for the anodes, the orange for the cathodes. The ones are the current collectors, and the blue ones are for the cell casing. So if you start looking at this, there's a lot of metals that actually can be recycled. And one of the things that are also important right now is that graphite, which is present in mud, has sort of been used as a fuel during recycling. But as it is now, we're focusing on also trying to recycle the graphite. So we're talking about 52 kilos of graphite. We're talking about 19 or 35 kilos of aluminium. We have a lot of nickel, as you see, also copper, steel. We have, of course, the lithium, and we have the cobalt. So there's a lot of very valuable metals that are present in a battery. And we need to recycle it, but it's not only recycling that is important. What is also important is to recycle back into the same quality as we started out with. And that's where the problem actually is today. Because a lot of the processes that we are using for recycling were not designed for recycling batteries. They are being used today, but they were not specifically designed for it. And that's where we need to start rethinking. Recycling the different parts in a petrol car. We've been doing that for a long time, and as it is today, based on statistics, we can say that we can actually manage to recycle approximately 95% of the metals that are present in a car. When it comes to electric vehicles, of course, this is a new market. We're not actually there yet. I'm getting some echo. Is it okay? Okay. So we're actually yet. This is a new market, new technology that needs to be developed. But we are slowly getting there. So, if we then look at circular economy, slide back, and I want to say circular economy is how Europe now are trying to make sure that we can reach sustainability in our society. There are certain things that we need to concentrate on. Like I said in the beginning, closing the eco-cycle for recycling of electric vehicle batteries. That's a challenge. It's a huge challenge. But it's also one of the goals that we have. And then it comes down also to the resilience in the economy connected to, because as on a for quite a long smaller so the processes are not scaled to a not there to adopt to the process. We also need to harvest really industry and that are greater than wasteful. And that is also what we try to focus on. Let's then go into important for recycling of lithium-ion batteries. If you today and you start looking at the literature, there are different recycling. So we talk about direct recycling, as you can see in the circle, recycling through hydroprocessing, and also recycling through pyroprocessing. A lot of that started out doing a lot of pyrometallurgical recycling of batteries, but talking about one of the main differences between pyrometallurgical processes and hydrometallurgical processes is that you actually something called liberation is something that you can obtain through a metallurgical process, not through a hydrometallurgical process. You need temperatures to start breaking the bonds. This is then of importance when we start looking at the circular economy. I just want to mention that another thing that is important, as you saw at the circle, it's recycling. Or use battery components itself. This is very much in focus right now in and the part of battery are taking place in a lot of that go a bit more into you have different batteries that I have. Flow sheet quite fast, hopefully. At the look at used batteries and treatments, and go further on to metal extraction, regeneration, and then metal. One of the main focuses that we do have, and I have two. This actually work with batteries at the university has taken to get to actually work with get a battery stream, recycler, keep it at, start producing the black of the battery and pre-treatment. You need to have a very specific lab to do that, with very specific regulations on who is allowed to enter, because there's a lot of toxic elements and there are a lot of so if you look at the different sorting and dismantling of course you also have some negative points. Beyond have different pre-treatment processes. Uh, the, the, um, the important part of the pre-treatment processes is to try to make it easier to concentrate the material. So when we go into further treatment of pyrometallurgy and hydrometallurgy, we have sort of less volume, and we have a material that is concentrated in view of the metals that we want to recycle. So enrichment is important, reduction of the scrap volume, reduction of energy consumption, improvement of recovery rates, and then of course improvement of the management in view of safety, different safety issues. We have thermal pretreatment processes. I'm not going to go into details here as I'm running out of time, but calcination, oxygen-free roasting is important steps. Enclosed vacuum chambers can be used, as well as vacuum pyrolysis with certain positive and negative points. Then we have mechanical pretreatment processes. We usually go into grinding or crushing, again with positive and negative issues. We have physical pretreatment processes where we focus on sieving, ultrasonic washing, or flotation. Each of them with their positive and negative issues. And then chemical pretreatment processes, electrolytic dissolution and binder dissolution. So you see there are so many different ways that we actually can pre-treat the material. So what we're doing today is that we're trying to optimize the processes by choosing the right pre-treatment process in view of the metals that we want to recycle. We also have a combination of processes where we look into mechanical and chemical pre-treatment processes in one step, again with positive and negative outcomes. Then coming into the pyrometallurgical processes, what is specific, of course, is that we're working with high temperatures and we're working in larger scales. I want to point out some of the important steps. Pyrolysis is one of the steps that we're working with, quite different processes. Metal reduction, trying to compact and concentrate the material, which means that we need to go to higher temperatures. We need to break some of the chemical bonds to separate out the different metals that either ends up in the metal phase or in the slag phase or ends up in the off gas and can be recycled from that specific phase. Gas incineration is also being used today. Lower temperatures, but we're still about 1,000 degrees. Combination of these processes are also used during pyrometallurgical processing. Some of the positive and negative aspects, of course, high recovery efficiency is what we get with some of the pyrometallurgical processes. Moderate energy consumption, no gaseous emissions. We have a lot of specific gaseous cleaning systems that are being used today and developed and further are being developed. Recovery of all, I would say, lithium-ion battery cathode materials. I have some statistics, but I don't have time to show that. And then mild reaction conditions. And then wastewater productions being discussed quite incomplete binder electrolyte recycling, and then complexity of the procedure itself. We're working at very high temperatures, and selectivity of reagents. Hydrometallurgical processes, very briefly, materials are dissolved, and then are being separated, either in one step or several steps. What we're focusing on quite a lot now in Europe is looking that are more friendly towards the environment. This is a much easier process. We're working at much lower temperatures. there are a lot of different companies working in the area, which I'm sure that you are aware of. So I will just briefly tell you, just show the slides of the different areas. And what is important here is actually if you start looking at the product that is being produced, as you can see, the products are different in the different processes. So these are the pyrometallurgical processes in combination with the hydrometallurgical processes. And then, if I can just befriend with this pointer, and here are some of the companies that are working on hydrometallurgical processes. Again, if you look into the products that are being produced, they are very, very different. So the need for recycling, I'm going to wrap up now. We need to comply with the legislations, and the legislations are getting really, really tough now in Europe and in the Nordic countries. This is also due to economical reasons that we need to do recycling. And then we have the social motivations. We want to minimize environmental harm potential for battery life cycle. We want to look at the circular flow of strategic metals, and we want to make electromobility possible. And what is important to think about when you come from, the Nordic countries as I do, or Europe, is that we don't have the mines for a lot of the metals that we need to produce the batteries. So being good at recycling, meaning we have the urban mine because the batteries are there, so being good at recycling them would actually then give us the urban mine that we need to produce new batteries. I'm just going to flip through some of my slides since I'm running out of time and just come to the, if this one can work. No? So I'm just going to go to the last slide so I can wrap up. If it wants to move, but it doesn't want to move. So what you also need to look at is the implication of battery producers and how this whole scenario actually influences them. So wrapping up, rechargeable lithium-ion batteries are the prominent technology to store energy, and that was also mentioned by the previous speaker. What is important is, of course, to focus on certain metals and make sure that we don't downgrade. So, coming to my last slide, if it wants to, one last slide here. So I want to conclude with this. All the technological solutions that I've tried to summarize in a very brief way. There is a strong fragmentation of current processes, which I think you can see by the products being produced. Economic and environmental barriers needs to be faced. And the return amount of lithium-ion batteries will become significant. So we need to work together to actually develop new processes. And I want to leave you with some pictures from, if I can get to that slide. There you are. So this is some pictures from my university in Trondheim, where I come from. So thank you so much for your attention.
Check. Thank you very much, madam, for that presentation. I believe sir would like to put up a question. Sirs, we are a little behind the schedule, but we can I think take one question from you. If we do have a networking lunch, while that we'll have a good one-on-one conversation, but right now I would request Shri R.N. Patra sir to please come on stage, a former president of the Indian Institute of Metal and former CMD IREL, to felicitate Dr. Oon for this fantastic presentation. Check. Ladies and gentlemen, I understand topics like this requires an extensive presentation and discussion, but due to paucity of time, we thank Dr. Oon for that very informative presentation. And thank you, Shri Patra. And now, ladies and gentlemen, our next plenary lecture is by Mr. Philip Mayer, CTO, Senior Vice President and Chief Technology Officer, Novelis Koblenz, Germany.
Not sure it works.
Mr. Mayer, he contributed to the strategy of the company and responsible for the definition and deployment of the R&D activities. Sir is here. I don't need to introduce you, sir. Everything is there, and we are so looking forward to your talk on aluminium as a material of choice for the transition of the automotive industry towards carbon neutrality.
Can you hear me well?
Okay, thank you very much for the introduction. It's really my pleasure and my honor to be here with this esteemed audience and all these participants. I'm extremely happy now to share with you the view we have in Novelis about aluminum as a material of choice to move the automotive industry towards circularity and sustainability, moving to carbon neutrality. Now I have to find the right way to move, and it does not move, obviously. So I don't know, it's maybe not ready. This may be a different file. It's not moving. So I see a lot of activity. It should be solved quickly. A lot behind the scene. It's good looking. So that allows at least to pause and reflect, so, which was not planned, but here it is. Okay, thank you very much. So let's move immediately to the first slide. If it really wants to move now, doesn't seem to move. Okay, thank you very much for the technical support. So I will first start to give a couple of words about Novelis. Our purpose is to shape a sustainable world together. And in this very compact sentence, you have a lot of things. Shaping, it's a lot about innovation, pushing the limits in terms of alloys, in terms of processes, in terms of methodologies, in terms of relationships with our customers. Sustainability is really the guideline for us in Novelis for our strategy, for our investments, for our R&D. And a world together, this is also to say we are not alone. It's with our customers, with our suppliers, with our people also. And as it was mentioned this morning, sustainability is not only about CO2, it's not only about technical things, it's also about people, about ESG, about diversity, and that's how we see sustainability. So looking at now, what Novelis is, brief summary, about 13,000 people worldwide, 9 countries, 33 operating sites, close to 4 million tons of aluminum shipped per year, flat rolled products. Out of these, 2.3 million tons are from recycled material already. It's an EBITDA of 18 billion, sales of 18 billion and EBITDA of 1.8. And these are our major activities, so packaging and beverage can, automotive, aerospace, and specialties. Now, what is our business precisely? We are not involved in mining, in alumina, in smelting. We are specialized in transformation, so the right part of the chart. We are buying prime, we are buying material, recycled material. We roll, we heat treat, we finish. We make this material available to our customers, and very important, there is a first recycling loop, which I call here the production closed loop, where we care to bring as much as possible back what the customers do not directly use. And of course, there is, after the life of the vehicle, an end-of-life closed loop, which is also important for us to get all this material back. And now to say about the material, what is very important, aluminum is infinitely and truly recyclable. I always give the example we have in Brazil, which is a very nice one, because for cans, we have 100% of collection of can. It's outstanding good. Not everything is going back to can, only today about 80%, but it's already a high amount. And what is very important, a can is recycled and remanufactured every 60 days. And for us in South America, this represents 36 billion cans a year. And so when we want to demonstrate the full recyclability of aluminum, we have these big statistics and these big numbers. And this is true for every application. If we care, aluminum is infinitely and truly recyclable. And as was mentioned before, recyclable for us means without any loss of performance. Recycling saves 95% of energy as compared to prime. And altogether, with the efforts we have done so far for our company, the numbers I've given to you mean that globally we are at 61% of recycling content already, which is the highest level worldwide in our business. And nevertheless, because prime is so energy intensive, nevertheless today, the prime we still use represents 85% of our product CO2. And based on that, you can pretty well understand what is our strategy for decarbonization. First, focus on the 85% coming from prime. We want to reduce the use of prime. For that, we increase the investment in recycling. We innovate in alloys. I will give you some examples, and also processes which allow us to digest more of the recycled material. We work at maximizing the closed loop, the production closed loop, and the end-of-life closed loop. And of course, we work with smelters in partnership to support the decarbonization of the remaining prime which remains necessary. And for the 15% remaining, we work at decarbonizing, of course, also our manufacturing footprint. Our objective is to be carbon neutral by 2050 or even earlier, which is required by many of the customers, not to do that only by 2050, but earlier. And we have an important milestone to have 30% reduction of our CO2 footprint by 2026, as compared to a baseline in 2016. We have not so much time, but I wanted nevertheless to highlight that you have a lot of people speaking about recycling content, and you can give whatever value depending on the definition. So I've highlighted here what is our definition. The recycling content is basically what is really not coming from prime, not counting the runaround scrap inside the processing. And so that's a very tough definition. And this is what gives us a 61%. This 61% positions us as the major recycler of aluminum in the world. And we have invested massively in the past years to come to this level, more than $1 billion over the 10 past years to come to this level. And there is no investment in Novelis which is not associating to increased capacity, also increased capacity of recycling. Now, how do we further progress? First, we care to assure a good quality of production, closed loop, even when the distances are big. And I give here an example between our plant of Nachterstedt making sheets for the automotive application and working for Nissan, Sunderland in north of England. And you see that though there is a distance, we have put in place a necessary connection by train, by the way, to link the plant and the customer. and bring this production scrap loop directly back to reuse it without loss of performance. We work close with customers like Porsche, who have invested in press lines, fully automated, where now there is a segregation between the alloys. So that's thought, developed, and implemented together, so that here we get the different alloys back to our plants without mix, which allows to recast exactly in the same quality. And I give also the example of Jaguar Land Rover, where we have simultaneously invested in their plants to segregate the scrap in our plants to recycle it. Developing alloys is something important also. Usually the doors are made out of, or very often, the doors are made of inner 5,000 alloys and outer 6,000 alloys, because the 5,000 alloys behave very well in terms of forming ability. So it's very convenient for the inner parts. And the problem is that these 5,000 alloys, they have a pretty high CO2 footprint. You see, with the current average standards today, this is 6 tons per ton of CO2. And the reason for that is, first, magnesium brings a lot of CO2 itself due to the process used today mainly in China. And also because these magnesium alloys, they are not very friendly when it comes to recycling. For very precise chemical reactions between magnesium and the silicon present in the twitch, in the end-of-life material, you cannot use a lot of this end-of-life. And so only out of the 2 loops I've shown to you, only the production loop, when well-sorted, works well. There comes the beauty of metallurgy, finding new alloys which allow to digest also the end-of-life. And this is this new alloy, the S605, which allows to not only have the production closed loop redigested without loss of performance, but also at least 30% end of life. And what we developed today shows it could go even to 40%. What does it mean then in terms of performance? If I take the example of a door, you will hear this number several times as compared to a fully optimized steel door. If we move to aluminum solutions, we save 44% of weight. But if we do that with the 2 alloys, with the 5,000 and 6,000, unfortunately, we are not better than steel in terms of CO2. When we go to this new generation of alloys with much higher content of end-of-life scrap, we bring the CO2 footprint down. And in this case, we not only, thanks to the performance of the alloy, have a little bit better weight saving, about 46%, but we have also a 44% reduction of CO2. So you see how important the metallurgy is, and the metallurgy in link with the understanding of the scrap market and the monitoring of the scrap market. Then when it comes to end of life, this illustrates also something which I like to highlight. We work not alone, we work in cooperation in the industry. And one example here is the scouting of the different recycling technology. We have done that as part of the Aluminum Association in Europe, in the Innovation Hub. We've made a complete scouting of different technologies. We have identified which are the most promising, basically based on artificial intelligence, XRF and XRT and LIMS. And started working with industries and with startups to build an industrial solution for us. And I give here the example we do in the United States. We have supported a startup, Sortera, helping them to invest, to develop. And this company is now building for us facilities, already 6 lines working, and that will further develop. And this will be part of our future investments in the 2 years to come, basically with our recycling center in Guthrie and our big investment of Bay Minette, where we will create 600 kiloton of additional rolling capacity. You see that we have engaged to build 850 kiloton of recycling capability. And this is, just to give orders of magnitude, it's absolutely massive. It's 1 million ton of CO2 saved per year. So really very important, very massive, and you see how the investments, the relation with the scrap market and the metallurgy come together to enable these solutions. Having said that, at the end, we believe there will be nevertheless a need for prime, and then we care to source this prime at the lowest possible CO2 footprint. We have engaged with, as you can see, very well-known companies into what is the First Movers Coalition. It's a spin-off of the World Economic Forum, and the participants, they really engage themselves as an aluminum product producer. We have committed to purchase at least 10% of primary aluminum at a very low CO2 footprint, so net zero below 3 tons per tons, which is typically half of a standard hydro performant production today, more than 10% at the horizon of 2030, and to do that even more in the future. And of course, we're very happy to be with Hindalco in this roadmap, because Hindalco, on their side, are also working at finding out solutions to bring the CO2 down. And so you see how that fits well together. We minimize the need of prime. Hindalco is increasing the performance of prime in terms of sustainability, and this shows a synergy at the group level where we come together to decrease the CO2. So that was about the 85% of Scope 3. We care also to decrease the CO2 footprint for Scope 1 and Scope 2, which is our manufacturing. We do that systematically for the new investments, so Bay Minette will be carbon neutral, Scope 1 and Scope 2. And then the question is, yeah, but can you do that also on the older plants, on the historical plant? And that's what we have launched as a project in Europe, in Sierre, which is our historical plant and also site of development for automotive solutions. And we have put in place what is necessary to become Scope 1 and Scope 2 carbon neutral at the horizon of 2030. It's kind of a platform for us to test all the different technologies and to demonstrate that also for old plants we can do it. Not only for new investments, we will not need to wait for new investments to go to carbon neutrality. And last point I wanted to highlight also, I have in my R&D teams working at arrays, so it's energy reduction and sustainable engineering. This is at looking at all possible innovative technology to decrease the CO2, and in particular, again, I would like to highlight a very nice story in terms of cooperation. We will not move immediately to decarbonization of our melting. Melting is roughly 50% of the Scope 1 and Scope 2. It's big investments, it's difficult, not so easy. And there is a way to bridge this evolution, and another way maybe which is fully sustainable, to use the CO2 we produce and not see that as a pain, but as a raw material for Birla Carbon to make their own products, and in particular the carbon black. And you see again the idea to not work together, but bring the industries together, and we are lucky enough to have already nice opportunities inside the ABG group. Now, having told about our way to decarbonize the aluminum, I would like to speak about what we do. What we do in automotive, basically, we want to be lighter, greener, and simpler. And why is it so necessary here? It's a little bit complex, but this is a diagram which shows, depending on the vehicle size, here measured in vehicle shadow area, what is the body in white weight. And you see a line with aluminum intensive vehicles. Another one, the orange one, with steel intensive internal combustion engines. And then the transition to electromobility brings the need to carry the battery and to further strengthen the body in white. And so you see how impactful is the move to electrification, increase of weight of the vehicle. And then you see also the opportunity for aluminum to play with that. Typically, you can save 180 kilo in body in white going from steel to aluminum. You need 160 kilo for the electromobility to bring the battery and all what is necessary. And you see that bringing all that together, going to aluminum-intensive vehicles in terms of electrification, that allows to stay at the level of weight we have today and even to be slightly lower in terms of weight. So how do we do that? We do that in simultaneous engineering with our customers in what we call customer solution centers, which we have in USA, in Germany, and in China. And I will give you some examples. So what is achieved? And these are examples which are done via Alumobility. It's a consortium of companies joining forces to demonstrate what we can do with aluminum. First example, Audi e-tron top hat, super optimized in steel grades, 193 kilo for this top hat. Moving to aluminum, you see we go down to 113 kilo. And again, you see the weight saving. Everything I will tell you is between 40 and 50%. So in this case, 41% from a steel optimized solution to an aluminum solution, fully optimized. I told you about the evolution of the CO2 footprint. That's the remaining time. Yeah. In terms of CO2 footprint, what's the impact of the recycling content I told you before? Basically, we're today 50-50, about 50% of recycled material and 50% of prime. And see, here you see the evolution of the CO2 footprint if we progressively move to full recycling content and full circularity. So going to 1 to 2 kilo of CO2 per kilo, which is roughly 4 times less than what we do today. Now, as we have to go quickly, I will just comment the conclusions of that. If we look at now battery electric vehicles, fully aluminum intensive as compared to steel, what appears here? The body, again, for last mile delivery vans, you see again a 47% weight saving. Total vehicle is 22. But very important, what I wanted to point out here is we save in powertrain and battery 10%. And this is very important. It's 10% less of cobalt, of lithium, of rare earths, of whatever material is critical. And so the message here is already with the technology we have today, we can have a carbon footprint for the complete vehicle lower than with steel, and with additional benefit of reducing the content of critical raw materials. What this will mean in terms of evolution, and maybe I want to rather go directly to the next slide. When we look at the movement to higher recycling content, and looking now at the full life cycle, the benefit I just mentioned will increase. That is, the more we will recycle, the more the gap will increase in favor of aluminum. And now coming to the last example, being simpler. Very nice study done with Genesis, with the people of Hyundai, showing that not only we can get the weight saving, looking now at a complete upper structure, again 40% weight saving, but also we can reduce the part count, the joint count, and even the combination of grades and thickness and heat treatment up to 65%. So this is done by improved design, simultaneous engineering, improved alloy selection, advanced hot forming, and aluminum sheets. The future, we move to 6,000 uni-alloy. We will go on simplifying the metallurgy with very selected alloys. We will improve the forming ability of aluminum to make more complex shape. A lot of progress done on lubrication, on forming, modeling, and understanding. Moving to rolled form solutions instead of extrusions. and also the opportunity to associate sheets and casting and reducing the number of components. So going definitely to a simpler way of thinking. We have invested in our customer solution centers in these different technologies, hot forming, cold forming, warm forming. We have now a complete line with 48 stations, which allow us to do whatever shape we want to do, basically in roll forming to replace extrusions. That's additional weight saving against extrusions, reduced costs. And so that's the way for us to go to simpler solutions. And my last point will be about the economics. We hear a lot about the price of aluminum against steel, but if you dezoom a little bit, that's a very interesting curve which shows the evolution of price between steel and aluminum, not with these peaks up and down, but the global trend, which you see here, ratio aluminum over steel. And you see that over time, this ratio is going down. So we're not at all in a perspective of having aluminum more expensive as compared to steel in the future. It's exactly the opposite. So that's a very healthy base. Keep in mind, we work at being lighter, we work at being simpler, and so our objective today is to target the cost of use of aluminum solutions at least as good or better than steel. So the economical aspect is, of course, very important. And that brings me to my conclusion, basically, thinking that the impact of material choices we make today with our customer will last for the 10 or 15 years to come, so we have to make these choices with our customers, or they have to make the choices very carefully. And the message I wanted to pass today is let's keep in mind that aluminum, if it is properly handled, is infinitely recyclable without loss of performance. It's really a material for circularity. You have seen we walk to talk in terms of decarbonization, in investment, in research, in applications with our customers. And just summarize what happens for battery electric vehicles against best-in-class steel solutions. Typically 40 to 50% weight saving, up to 10% reduction of the material needed for the engines and for the batteries. And we heard today how critical this material will be for the future, how strategic and costly they will be. So 10% reduction is not neglectable. A better life cycle assessment, and keep in mind that this better situation will increase while moving to circularity. Already on some examples, the last mile delivery vans, we have a better cost of use, and this gap will increase while we go on making the solutions more simple and leaner. And so, really interesting perspectives, but again, the conclusion I want to also highlight is that what is very important is the work with our customers inside the industry. You've heard some examples, it's very short, we don't have time to really deep dive, but you have heard a lot is about cooperation inside the aluminum industry with our suppliers, with our customers, and I would say also outside the aluminum industry, among the suppliers for automotive. That's really the key for the future to decarbonize efficiently and become fully circular. And we believe we can bring a very strong and positive contribution to that as aluminum producer. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. A lot of things to say. I tried to be short enough, but definitely on the good way to decarbonization. And I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, sir, for such a crisp and to-the-point presentation. We are actually on time now, so if there is one question from the audience, we can take a single question from anybody.
It is true, if you use more aluminum in automobiles, we can bring down the fuel consumption and pollution control and carbon footprint and all that. So it is very easy. Now, I have a question. You have any efforts to reduce the carbon footprint in the production of aluminum itself. That is, every kg of aluminum production throws out almost 10 to maybe more than 10 kg of carbon dioxide. The more aluminum we use, the more carbon dioxide is also sent to the atmosphere. Are you doing any efforts in reducing that? That is what is more interesting to our metallurgy. Other one, automobile industries will definitely be using more aluminum. The other aspect is that you emphasized on e-vehicles. E-vehicles do not use, unless hybrid, the fuel. So therefore, it's not very relevant. I'm sorry if I say so. Because the reduction which you showed in the fuel consumption and therefore reduction in the carbon footprint. Anyway, we did not debate on that. Just can you tell us about the processes which you are following to reduce the carbon in the production of aluminum? Thank you.
So, very quick answer.
Yeah.
First on the data, you have seen QR codes. You can have access to the studies and all the assumptions. Second element of answer, we as transformer, we minimize the need for prime. And the third element of answer, which is your first question, we rely on the aluminum prime suppliers, and we work in close cooperation to make that happen. And I think, Satish, maybe you can give this point of view of the aluminum producer, because a lot of things are happening there also.
Yeah, so the aluminum industry, if you go on our website and look at what we are doing, so I'll just give you one practical example which got selected for the COP28 award. So in Lapanga, we are going to use round-the-clock power, which is solar, wind, and pumped hydro. And that combination gives us 85% load factor. So we are the first aluminum company to try it. If that works, then we can substantially take more than 60-70% of our aluminum production to below 3 tons per ton of CO2. So that's the way we are doing it.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. And now I would invite Dr. Debashish Bhattacharjee, Vice President Technology, Tata Steel, to please come on stage and felicitate Mr. Philip Mayer. I'm sure, ladies and gentlemen, you'll agree with me that all our plenary lectures were outstanding, supremely informative. But due to a paucity of time, we could not have a detailed interaction on it. But now we have the opportunity during the networking lunch. But prior to that, I'm sure everybody has been waiting for the technical exhibition. So now I would request Shri Satish Pai, our President in the Indian Institute of Metals, to kindly inaugurate the technical exhibition that is right at the entrance of the expo area. Followed by, I would invite everybody to join us for lunch and join us back by 2:15 as sharp at 2:30 p.m. We'll be starting with our CEO panel discussion. Also, to all our special delegates, so we have our volunteers who would escort you to the banquet area for a networking time. So now, ladies and gentlemen, please join us for the inauguration of the technical exhibition by our President, Shri Satish Pai. And please do join us back by 2:15 p.m. for the next CEO panel discussion. Thank you very much. Have a great lunch.